So there's three basic phases with your chipping practice. The first part is going to be block practice in the beginning. That would be when you're working on any sort of mechanical pieces, which is going to be different for everyone. If you don't have any mechanical pieces with your chipping, this would be simply a warm-up where you would skip it altogether. Usually for people who don't need mechanical changes, there'd usually be one or two things you would still do sort of like as a vitamin, as a check. After the block practice in the beginning, we'll do the skill work. It'll be the second phase. So that would include things like varying trajectories. That would include landing ladders for your chipping and potentially being able to use different clubs. We do all clubs. So any kind of skill work game you would do in the middle. And then at the end, we would do some form of up and down or total stroke. So that would be the most game-like. We'll do different up and down games, randomize it a little bit more, where you get the completion of what you're trying to do, not just hit it close to the hole, but you actually have to get up and down from there. So block in the beginning, skill practice in the middle, and then up and downs or total stroke at the end. I would try and hit each one of those if possible during each practice. For block practice for chipping, this would be the first thing I would do when I come down to practice. So I would come down, drop a X amount of balls, doesn't really matter. And this is the phase where I'm working on any sort of mechanical pieces, fundamental stuff. I don't have too many things personally right now that I'm doing for my chipping. I have a couple of pieces that I'll check. One thing for me is shoulder tilt, to make sure I don't have too much shoulder tilt. So as I'm warming up, I traditionally would have people do this to no target. So this isn't, I'm trying to get this close to the hole. Don't even have to go to the green. I could just even go off to the side. So I might chip one or two just kind of in the middle. And for me, I'm checking my shoulder tilt. Typically I have some form of feedback for this, but I'm just kind of chipping a couple just to get loosened up. How many doesn't really matter all that much. It's kind of just whatever you feel. Maybe 5 to 10 I would typically do. Not too worried about the result here, just kind of going over my tilts, any little pieces that I'm working on, kind of observing my contact. I might do 5, 10. If I need more, I feel like I'll do more than that. If you have more mechanical pieces with some sort of feedback, you'd be doing that in this phase right now. And kind of like whenever you feel good with it, you can move on to the skill stuff. The next phase of the chipping practice is a skill phase. There's certain things that I usually like to check off in skill phase, but it's a little bit different for everyone. One thing that pretty much is non-negotiable for the players I work with is being able to change trajectories. So that would be the first skill portion that we would do, being able to hit it low, medium, and high. So usually I'll pair this in with a proximity to the hole game, but it depends on your skill set. If you're just learning how to hit trajectories, I would not put any kind of game with it. I would just do them in general, kind of the no target, more like the block. And then once you become comfortable with it and you get more advanced, then I want you to hit it to within certain distances. So I'm going to do a proximity to the hole game with this, which is what I would do with most advanced players. Usually I'll use 3-foot circles, 6-foot circles, or 9-foot. Again, depending upon the skill, you can make it easier or harder. At the highest level, I might make them do low, medium, and high, and they got a hole 1 out of 3. So you just kind of vary the difficulty. For me right now, I don't practice a lot. I'm going to do a 6-foot circle. We usually do this to a short, a medium, and a long target. I'm going to do this all from one location to all 3 of those holes. So I just walk up with a couple tees, and I'll walk off a 6-foot circle, and this is going to be my margin of error. Now, if I was practicing more, I would make this a 3-foot circle for me, but just for the sake of this, I'll show you. So 6 feet, so something like this, and then maybe I'll add in one back here, kind of eyeball it, doesn't be perfect. So I have a circle to work within. Now, you could just do this in the beginning to learn to vary the distances and not do a trajectory game and just put 3 or 6 or 9 feet and get it within that, and that would be perfectly fine. But we're going to do it with a trajectory. So I have 3 golf balls, and I'm going to hit the first one low, second one medium, third one high. So I'd hop onto my first one, and I got to hit a low one. Now, with an advanced player, I would have them do this all with 1 club. So you have to learn how to do this with 1 club, probably sand wedge. Over time, when you do the up and downs, if you got to hit it lower, you can switch clubs to do that. So there's my low. So that's within the circle, so I'll move on. And then now I'll do the medium. So it's just be kind of a normal chip shot for me. Same target. Hit that a little hard. So, okay, so that missed the circle. I hit that too hard. So I would do the rules for me at my skill level where I had to start back over. So I didn't get that medium one. I'm not going to just stay on the medium one. I pull both balls back or put more balls in, start back at the low. and I have to get the low, the medium, and the high all within that 6 foot circle, and I start over every time I miss. The consequence of starting over when you miss is the closest thing to tournament pressure that I've experienced. I think it gives your central nervous system the same response, because you can't get exactly tournament feels, but that's the closest thing. Each shot means more for me and other players that I work with. When you miss, you start over as a consequence is, I think, a really good one. So I would start that back over. As soon as I get 3 in a row, I'll then go to a medium hole distance and then a long distance. And again, scale difficulty. If I miss any of those shots, low, medium, high, I start over again. The next part of the skill practice that we'll do with chipping is landing zone ladders. There's a lot of different formats you can do this. I've seen it done a lot of different ways, and they're all cool. Usually how we'll do this is one of 2 ways. The first way would be I'll put a set of golf balls here off the green in one location, and then I'll walk up and put something, usually a towel, about a pace on is where we'll start. So I'll walk up, I'll put this towel, for me, about a pace on the green. Now I'm going to choose to play this is I'm going to start in a location that's pretty short. So I would probably start maybe 2 to 3 paces off the green. One version of this is now I'll start at this short one, and I stay at this location until I hit the towel. And then if I hit the towel from here, we'll call this level 1, then I move back to a medium spot, which would be kind of here-ish. And then I'll stay there until I hit that, and then I'll move back to a long one. And the rules of the game, again, I would scale difficulty per skill level. At my level, or someone who plays like kind of scratch, you have to hit the towel at each 3 of the spots. If you miss, you start over. You can do 3 spots, 4 spots, 5 spots, doesn't much matter. This is one version. This is usually how we'll do it, where we just keep the towel in the same spot. The other version is you hit from the same spot, let's say all right here. Doesn't really matter how far off, and you can change lies and stuff as you go. And I would keep the towel a pace on, and I'd hit it from there. And then as soon as I hit it from a pace on, I'll move it another pace or 2 back. And I'll keep moving that back as I go, chipping from one spot. So you can change where you chip from in this game, or you can change the towel. Sometimes we'll lay clubs out, each one about a pace apart, and we'll typically do like 5 different paces. So you have 5 zones you gotta land within, and do that as a landing zone ladder. You don't have to do every skill in this skill phase, especially if you're short on time. You can do one of them. This one, again, I would prescribe based on what I see the player perform. If they're not hitting their landing zones a lot, I would have them increase this, potentially decrease one of the other zones. So this is an option in the skill phase, but a good one. Again, vary the rules. If you miss, you start over, or scores, you can put points to it, whatever. But this would be the second part of the skill phase. We would do landing zone specific ladders. The third part of the chipping practice is still in this skill phase that we'll do is what we call all clubs, which is essentially you learning how to chip with every club in your bag. Again, a lot of different formats to these games. Usually what we'll do is we'll do this to a short, a medium, and a long pin, and we can put different consequences on it. If I'm just starting someone out with this, I don't really put any consequence on it. We're just picking a short hole. You would start with your highest lofted club, so for me it'd be a 58 degree sand wedge. I hit one ball with each club, 58, 56, pitching wedge, gap, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. I'll even have them do a wood or hybrid and 3 wood, all the way up until your driver. You chip one ball with each club. If you're just learning, you pick a short target like this one and just chip one with each club. Doesn't matter where the ball goes. I just want you to start to get feedback. Watch what happens, feel what happens. No score, no rules to it, just to feel it, the short, medium, and the long. Even if you don't use a bunch of different clubs when you play, I've found the players who are able to chip well with multiple clubs even chip better when they only chip with one club. That's pretty much across the board. I've found that. And maybe as you're going, a lot of the players will realize, hey, one of these 2 clubs to this certain hole, I chip really good with. So maybe to a short hole, they're not great with it, but maybe to a long hole, they chip their 7-iron and they're really freaking good at it. And then, okay, they start to use that when they play. A lot of the better players, even people who aren't as good, aren't great at it on day one because they're not used to chipping with it, and then they stop doing it. So this is something you have to do several times until you would put it onto the course. That would be the beginner phase learning. Just chip them to each one. As you get better, you might put a proximity to the whole circle, which is probably how I would do this for time-wise. With a 3 foot, 6 foot, or 9 foot circle, got to hit X amount within the circle, miss your start, or whatever, however you want to do it difficulty-wise. Scale that to how much time. That can take quite a while. Or you can do up and downs with that. So kind of all of the chipping skill parts and games you play, you can do proximity to the hole as a game. You can do up and downs as a game. Those would be the main two that we'll use, or total stroke. So every club in your bag to a short one, pull them back. Every club in your bag to a medium, and then to a long. Put rules in as you see fit. This, again, you don't have to do every one of these, but this would be an option to fill in. The last portion of the chipping practice is up and downs. So you can do either an up and down game or a total stroke game. I prefer to do up and downs. Typically we'll do two different set of rules or different types of games. One would be how many up and downs you can do in a row without missing. And then I'll set a benchmark per skill level. So like a scratch level player, let's say, I'd say you got to do up and downs until you get 9 in a row. And if you miss one, you start back over. Don't stop until you get 9 in a row. 9 is an arbitrary number, it can be whatever. Start at 3 or 6 or 5. The other way to do it is a total stroke game. Now usually we'll do total stroke games in a 9-hole format just because it fits kind of what you play. That really doesn't matter that much either. So essentially if you do total stroke, you would do 9 holes. Play the ball in random locations, so do not chip from the same spot, play in different lies and hit the different holes, and you would do 9 holes and have a total stroke. So I know like James Seekman, something they would call it 21, because that's kind of a target zone for a high-level short game player. So 9-hole total stroke is one option, 9 holes up and down, a lot of people do that. That's a good one to scale where you're at and randomize it like it's actual golf. Or we'll do up and downs in a row. I like up and downs in a row because I think it simulates the pressure more. When you do 9 holes total stroke, you know you have more holes, so that up and down is not as matter as much. And again, I love the consequence if you miss start over, because that's like when you go play and you have a chip shot, that's the only chip shot that matters in the world. You have to hit that chip shot good right now. That simulates a chip to me on like 17 or 18 of a tournament more than 9-hole total stroke. That's not the same to me. So I prefer that, but use whatever works. This would be completely random. So I would take a ball, I'd kind of throw it in a random spot. I'll do it from here just for the sake of simplicity, but I would do 9 holes random, or up and downs in a row. So I'd pick a random hole. I'm going to start to this one because I chipped there and I kind of know that hole. So I go through my normal process, pick the club I'm going to use, normal routine, and then I'm going to hit a shot to that hole, just kind of normal, okay? And then I'm going to go up and putt them all. So I'll go up, and then I'll go through and I'll putt. So that would be 1 up and down for me. Now for me, I would set the bar at I got to do 9. So I'd take this ball, I'd randomly kind of toss it wherever, and get 9 in a row. Now I would scale it where I start pretty easy. So the first couple holes, I want to be pretty easy up and downs. And then as I get closer, like 8 and 9 for me, I'd have like a tough up and down, probably short-sided, probably a tough lie where it's work. I don't want that to be easy. The worst thing that happens is you struggle with that and you got to play this game a lot, and then your short game gets freaking good. So that's how I would do it. Now, I didn't do my putting routine from there because at that distance in the tournament, I would not do it. I would just get up there and putt it. But if I normally hit one, I would do my full putting routine, full chipping routine, 9 up and downs in a row. If you miss start over, that's really good for an advanced player. If your scores are a little higher, you're newer to the game, you might do like 3 in a row type of thing, 2 in a row, whatever, and just scale that. So that would be the last phase of the chipping. I would do that every time. When you're doing your chipping practice, we want to make sure we hit all 3 of those phases each time you practice. So what I would say, depending upon how much time you have, if you have shorter amount of time or a longer period of time, you still do all 3. You just kind of dumb them down a little bit, or you scale them back a little bit. Don't do as many holes, make the rules a little bit different, whatever, just to change, to give yourself enough time in each phase. Even if you have 15, 20 minutes, you could still knock all 3 of them out. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there. Obviously longer would be cool. So I would do all 3 of them. The skill phase, we gave you 3 different options. So we did the trajectory part with a proximity to the hole. We did the landing ladder, and then we did all clubs. Probably hard to do all of them every session. Maybe pick one of them, pick which one you need the most, or just mix it up so it's not just the same thing all the time. Up and downs at the end are non-negotiable. Got to do those every time that you practice. If for some reason you weren't going to do all 3 of them, I would hop right in up and downs. If I had to take some stuff out, I wouldn't just do block and I wouldn't just do skill stuff. I'd go right in up and downs. Because at the end of the day, if you can get 9 in a row, the skill stuff's all right. You know what I mean? I'd rather you do all of them, but if you had to skip something, just do the up and downs at the end. That's pretty straightforward. The skill stuff, I've seen so many skill games and chipping. These are just 3 basic formats. But go over the skills you actually need to chip well. What do you need to chip well? You need to be able to land in the zone you want. You probably got to be able to change either trajectory or club once in a while. You can't just have one stock chip. It's not going to work when you play. You got to go over shit. You got weird lies. You got to hit different shots. So you need those two, and then put some kind of game to it as your skill gets more advanced. Really recommend the if you miss start over if you're kind of been playing for a while, because that's super hard, but it's good. So that's kind of what I would do with my normal chip stuff. Nothing fancy, just get really good at the fundamental stuff.